Hello, everyone, and welcome back to American Ultras Talk. The USA U20s kicked off their CONCACAF U20 Championship campaign with a dominant 9-0 win over Jamaica, but the games keep coming. Their second group stage game against Cuba's U20s is coming up tomorrow, so I'm here today to preview the game, give my predicted lineup, of course, the score prediction and how I think the game will go, and all sorts of stuff relating to the USA U20s game as we continue coverage of this tournament on the channel. So without further ado, let's just get into how both teams performed on match day one. And we will start with the USA U20s, who, as we all know, beat Jamaica 9-0 in one of the most dominant performances I've seen from a U.S. team of any sort in a long, long time. I think even dating back to the previous edition of this tournament in 2022 was probably the last time I saw something this dominant from a U.S. youth national team side. Goals coming, of course, from braces by David Vasquez and Pedro Soma, and then singular goals from Cruz Medina, Marco Zambrano, Ruben Ramos Jr., Nimfasha Berchimas, and Nico Shakiris. Very dominant performance, and one where we were in control from start to finish. Now for Cuba, it was a bit of a tougher match. They came up against Costa Rica in their first group game, who of course will be our final group game in a couple of days, and they drew 1-1. A pretty solid result for them. Samuel Rodriguez for Cuba did score a penalty in the 8th minute, and from there it was all about survival for Cuba. Despite conceding the equalizer to Esteban Cruz from Costa Rica in the 52nd minute and being comprehensively outplayed by the Costa Ricans pretty much the whole game, the Cubans were resilient and they did hold on to a big draw, a 1-1 result, huge point to get on the board for them, and it gives them a pretty decent chance at qualifying, in all honesty. If that performance from the USA against Jamaica is anything to take notes from, I think Cuba could probably have a decent chance of beating Jamaica and qualifying to the next round, because in this tournament, two of the three teams that finished third, there are three groups, of course, two of the three teams that finished third do qualify for the quarterfinals, along with obviously first and second place from each group. So Cuba helping themselves there with that draw, but I think it's time to get into the predicted lineup, and there's going to be a lot of rotation because I think you can see by our daily upload schedule in terms of the U20s coverage, the games are so heavily congested. They're so close to one another in the schedule, and because of that, rotation in this entire tournament is going to be key. Game to game, you're never going to see the same starting lineup being charted out 2 games in a row. So I think, keeping that in mind, that there's going to be a lot of rotation. Expect the players who came on as subs or didn't even play against Jamaica to probably start this game, and no better way to start that out than in goal with Julian Eystone. Now, it would kind of make a little bit of sense to keep Adam Beaudry in goal because he didn't really have a lot to do in the game against Jamaica, had a couple of claims off crosses, got the ball passed back to him a few times, but overall, we probably could have survived without a goalkeeper in that game. I think it just goes to show how dominant we were and how good the defense was as well, snuffing out any limited threat that Jamaica posed. But I do expect to see all three goalkeepers get minutes at this tournament, and I think Eystone is probably the second or maybe even best of the three, so I think he'll come in for this game. And of course, if we do win, get up to 6 points, we'll be all but qualified in first place for the knockout stages, and I expect the third string keeper, Duran Furi, to probably play against Costa Rica in the final group game. But for this one, I think Eystone comes in, recently signed, of course, for Brentford's B team over in England, so getting abroad and into a solid academy there. Now for the defense, and this one was a little bit tricky to pick. This one I'm the least confident about being right, just because there's not a lot of defenders at this tournament. I mean, most of them have already played already, and especially the fact that the whole defense went 90 minutes in the first game, and we don't have 4 defenders to come in and replace them off the bench, makes things a little bit difficult. The easy ones are to start. Ethan Collar will probably come in at right back for Aiden Haranki. He didn't play at all against Jamaica. Same for Stuart Hawkins at center back, who should come in. Also didn't get minutes in the first game. Then it gets a little tricky because all 4 of the remaining defenders, like I said, played the full 90 against Jamaica. I think it will be Noah Cobb to partner Stuart Hawkins, the 2 out-and-out center backs, keep their spots or get their spots in this game at the center back positions. And then Nolan Norris, the captain of the team, who did play as a center back against Jamaica, will go to left back, take the spot from Luca Bombino, who will drop to the bench. Now onto the midfield, and this one's very straightforward. I think we saw the starting midfield for this game all come on at the same time as subs against Jamaica. Around the 60th minute or so, we saw a complete midfield change. The three that started the game against Jamaica came off for Sergio Odehel from the Chicago Fire, Taha Habrun from the Columbus Crew, and Nico Shakiris from San Jose Earthquakes. Shakiris even scored. Taha Habrun was very threatening, involved in many of the goals after he came on. And I think that will be the midfield three for this game. It just makes too much sense. They came on as subs all together, got a little bit of run out. They're probably going to start this game. And I think Habrun has probably been, outside of Pedro Soma, who did score a brace, I think our most impressive midfielder so far, despite getting limited minutes. So very excited to see what these three can do together from the jump instead of coming off the bench. And then onto the forwards. I think Xavier Gosso, who came off the bench in the first game, will take the place at right wing. That is where he came on at halftime against Jamaica. I think Nympha Berchimas, who came on at left wing a little bit later in the game, I believe he was actually our last sub against Jamaica. I think he'll start at left wing, got a goal and assist even in his limited minutes. I do think Keirol Figueroa, it makes the most sense. He didn't play at all against Jamaica. Him, Kohler, Hawkins, and the goalkeepers were the only ones not to play. So I think he'll come in at striker. It just makes too much sense. He'll replace Zambrano, who did have a decent outing, scoring a goal. But like I said, rotation is key. Looking forward to seeing what the Liverpool Academy product can do, especially with some exciting wingers and midfielders to supplement him. And now on to my game predictions. Now, for a little bit of context, in the 2022 edition of this tournament, the last one, the one that served as qualifying for the Olympics, which is actually coming up this summer as well, basically at the same time as this tournament is, and of course the U20 World Cup that was last year, we were in the group with Cuba in that tournament in 2022, along with Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis. When we played Cuba, we beat them 3-0 thanks to a hat trick from Quinn Sullivan, obviously teammate and brother of Kevin Sullivan, whose jersey I have behind me in my backgrounds. Cuba did finish second in that group stage. Obviously, it's a completely different team because it's a new U20 cycle, but it goes to show they're no pushover. I think they're going to be a lot tougher of a match than Jamaica was. And I think someone in the comments, actually from the breakdown that I had of our win against Jamaica, brought up a really good point. That as this tournament progresses, we will get to see a little bit more the tactical identity of this team really progress and take shape, because I mean, against Jamaica, it was a 9-0 win against a very bad team. There's not much you can take away from that game tactics-wise. In this one, where maybe the opponents are a little bit more of a threat or not so much of a pushover, we could finally see the tactics start to unfold and take shape. So that's going to be something to watch out for in this game. Cuba are undoubtedly going to be harder than Jamaica, but we will have more of a first-choice lineup, and I do think that head coach Michael Encien did that intentionally, looking at the schedule before the tournament. I'm not sure, truthfully, if Cuba's team against Costa Rica was first choice or how much they'll rotate for this game, but I do know that the tight fixture congestion in this tournament hurts teams more the less depth they have. And we are by far the deepest team of this tournament. Cuba, not so much. So I'm pretty confident about our chances going to this. I was pretty conservative with the prediction against Jamaica, only predicted a 3-0 win, just because I didn't know if this edition of the CONCACAF U20 Championship would be as easy as the last one, frankly, just because, I mean, the talent level, I mean, we spoke about this when I previewed or looked at the roster when it initially came out. The talent level of this team compared to 2022 is a little bit lower. This is probably a B-side in terms of our U20s for this cycle. But it didn't matter. They got the job done comprehensively against Jamaica, 9-0. So I'm still going to be a little bit more conservative because I do think Cuba are a bit tougher. I'm going to go for 5-0 this time. I'm going to say goals from Nympha Berchimas. I think he'll get a brace. He was fantastic coming off the bench against Jamaica. I think Keirol Figueroa will get one. I mean, he's our starting striker, one of the most exciting prospects of this tournament. He can't start and not get a goal, especially against Cuba. Taha Habrun, I think, will get one. He'll be very involved regardless. I think there's a very large possibility that he could get one or maybe even many assists in this game because he was so involved in the attack once he came on against Jamaica. I expect it to be more of the same here, but I think he'll get one of his own. And then I'll say David Vasquez for the other one. I've got his autograph behind me on the Union jersey. A little bit biased as a Union fan, but he was so good in the first game. I think he'll come off the bench at some point and get his third goal of the tournament. And I will just say, this is a total shot in the dark. Somehow last game, I managed to only get one goal scorer right, even though there were 7 of them throughout the game. So really, I'm just picking names out of a hat here. Anyone could be on the score sheet. The final score could be anywhere from a 1-0 to a 10-0 to maybe even Cuba wins. Really, who knows? We're just going to have to see. But I will say a win would secure qualification for the quarterfinals and all but guarantee that we top the group. So that's what's at stake. The team's going to be very determined to get the result and make that happen. So let me know in the comments, guys. What is your prediction for this game? What do you think the final score will be? And who do you want to start? Are there some players that impressed you against Jamaica well enough that you think they should get another chance to start here against Cuba? Are there some players like Hero Figueroa who you think maybe didn't play as much against Jamaica that should get a chance to start here against Cuba? Our final group game is against Costa Rica as U20s on Thursday. So our basically daily U20 content schedule will continue, as I'll have a reaction to this game against Cuba out on Tuesday. Of course, this game being on Monday, and then a preview of the Costa Rica game will be out on Wednesday as well. So stay tuned for that, as well as actually Olympics coverage. I mentioned it a little earlier in the video. Our Olympics coverage will be starting very, very soon. A full preview of that tournament and a breakdown of how the USA U23s could do in the tournament will be out very, very soon, as well as a preview for our opener in that tournament against the host nation, France. That will also be out in a day or two, so stay tuned for that. We're truly in the thick of the summer action now, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, because like I've been saying, there's going to be some days where we even have 2 uploaded, like yesterday. So definitely make sure to not miss an upload by doing that. Leave a like if you enjoy the US Youth National Team's coverage, and I'll see you next time.